This is Hunter Labrada here with Labrada Nutrition, and today I'm here to take you through a back and bis workout. The goal of today's workout is hypertrophy or muscle growth. With that in mind, everything today is going to be slightly higher reps, somewhere between 10 to 15, and we're going to be keeping our rest periods low. Ideally 45 to 60 seconds in between the sets. For today's back and bis workout, we're going to start with straight arm push downs. From there, we'll move on to barbell rows and then wide grip lat pull downs. After lat pull downs, we'll move on to low cable rows, and finally, we'll finish up with rack pulls before moving on to biceps. For biceps, we're going to start with seated alternating dumbbell curls before moving on to standing alternating hammer curls. Once we finish that up, we're going to move on over to the cables, and we're going to do straight bar cable curls followed by rope hammer curls. Alright guys, let's get into our straight arm push downs. Straight arm push downs are by far one of my favorite back exercises, and I've started just about every back workout for the last 3 years with them. It serves as both a warm-up and a pre-exhaustion for the rest of the back workout. When doing these, you're going to want to make sure your arms are not perfectly straight, but have a slight angle in them the entire time. Aim to keep that angle in your arm, and then bring your elbows back as far as you can while keeping your chest out. Doing so will maximally activate your lats and take out as much as you can using other body parts. You'll notice the handle I'm using is the narrow V handle because they slightly pronate the hands, which is an optimal hand position for stretching the lat at the top of the rep. Moving on to bent over underhand barbell rows. I prefer to do these underhand as opposed to overhand because when you do them underhand, you're able to track your elbows back more naturally as opposed to having your hands overhand and you have the tendency to chicken wing or like pull your elbows out as you pull the weight up. All of the pull should come from your lat, and you can do that by concentrating on pulling your elbows back. Pretend you have strings tied to your elbows and someone's pulling those strings to get the weight up. Some other things to keep in mind when you do this exercise is you're going to want to keep a tight, flat lower back the whole time. Bent at the hips, but keeping a flat lower back. Next on our list today is wide grip lat pull downs. When doing this exercise, you're going to want to take a grip that's slightly wider than shoulder width. I don't really believe in going super wide because I think it places a lot more stress on the biceps than it does actually with your back. By keeping your grip slightly wider than shoulder width, you set yourself up to have the optimal track of motion and range of motion for this exercise. Before you even do a rep, you're going to want to keep a big chest. What that looks like, obviously, you'll see when I'm doing these reps, is my shoulders are back and my chest is out the entire time. You'll notice whenever I do these, I keep my body pretty darn near 90 degrees straight up, maybe a little bit back just so I don't take my nose off with the handle, but whenever you lean way far back, you are not targeting your lats as much as you're targeting your upper back, such as your trapezius and your rear delts. Moving on to low cable rows, the aim for this is to really engorge the muscle with blood and to really get a good squeeze on each rep and really just kind of tax the back and completely finish it off. Some things to keep in mind whenever you're doing this exercise. You're going to want to keep your back flat and your chest out. That's pretty much a universal tip for every back motion. Keeping those things in mind, whenever you pull, you're going to want to pull from your elbows, getting your elbows as far back as possible, which will give you a maximum contraction in your back. Whenever you let the weight down, I typically prefer to let my shoulders completely roll forward for the stretch, and before I start pulling and rowing again, you'll see me, I contract the shoulder girdle back and then row the weight again. So you're getting best of both worlds. You're getting a full stretch, but you're not using your biceps or compromising your form at all. Moving on to our last back exercise of the workout, we're going to be doing rack pulls. Whenever you're setting up, you're going to want to have it set to where the bar is right below your kneecap, or basically hitting at your patella tendon. I am a big proponent of rack pulls over standard deadlift. In my training split, I train legs twice a week, so my legs are always really sore. By using the rack pull, I'm able to get the beneficial portion of the deadlift without having to do the part of the motion that really taxes the hamstrings and the glutes and the quads a lot. So that's why I prefer rack pulls over traditional deadlifts for back development. It's a great finisher, and you're going to completely annihilate your back by doing them at the end. Now that we got back knocked out, we're going to move on to biceps. First on the list is seated alternating dumbbell curls. When we do these seated dumbbell curls, instead of alternating 1 rep on one arm, then 1 rep on the other, we're going to be doing 5 on one arm, then 5 on the other arm, then 5 on one arm, then 5 on the other. By doing so, you're doing 5 at a time, and time under tension is one of the main contributing factors to muscle growth. If you find yourself asking, why are we doing biceps after back? That's because your biceps are getting the indirect work from all the back work. So by the time we get to biceps, they're A, warm and ready to go, and then B, already pre-exhausted from the back training. Next exercise in our bicep workout is going to be standing alternating hammer curls. We're going to do these hammer curls in the same way that we did the seated alternating dumbbell curls for the same exact reason. So we're going to do 5 on one arm, 5 on the other, then 5 for the 4 sets that we do. I really like hammer curls because they train your forearm and then a muscle called your brachialis, which is a muscle that runs underneath your biceps. So it's a critical motion for complete arm development. Now that we got those hammer curls out of the way, we're going to move on over to the cables, and we're going to start with straight bar curls. And we're going to aim to really keep tension on the muscle the entire time. One of the main things to keep in mind is you're going to want to keep your elbows pinned at your side. By keeping your elbows pinned at your side and your shoulders back, you're able to isolate the biceps as much as possible, which is what we're after. You'll notice we started out with free weights and then moved on to cables. The reason for that is as the bicep tires, I like to really keep tension on it the whole time. And when you're lifting a free weight, you'll lift it, and towards the top of the rep, you'll notice it gets easier and easier and easier to the point where you can, like curl it up far enough to where it's basically just resting there instead of actually pulling on the bicep. With the cables, that's not the case. Even at the very top of the rep, the bicep's still under the full amount of tension that it was at the bottom of the reps. So, last exercise of the day is going to be a rope hammer curl. Same thing as the previous cable exercise, you're going to want to pay a lot of attention to keeping your shoulders and your elbows stationary and pinned at your side and your shoulders back. When doing this, you'll notice that I like to not have my thumbs wrapped around the rope. It's almost like a thumbs up position. Also, you'll notice that whenever I'm curling the weight up, I have my hand flexed back, which also contracts the forearm and the brachialis more than having it straight. So for this workout, you're going to want to be doing it at least once a week, and I wouldn't recommend doing it any more frequent than once every 4 days. It's definitely a taxing workout, but listen to your body. If your body feels fresh, you're no longer sore, nothing's aching, that's a good indicator that your body's recovered from the workout. You never want to train a sore muscle though, because a sore muscle is an unrecovered muscle. If you have any questions about this workout or anything else regarding training or nutrition, don't hesitate to ask. I'm on BodySpace and Instagram. My handle's Hunter Labrada, all lowercase, no spaces. For more free videos and articles from athletes like me, keep on coming back to bodybuilding.com.